All right, and we're live. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Multiverse Show, episode 160. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got a good show lined up for you guys. A couple people are out. I know Nick is out for the evening. I know James is out as well. We wish them best of luck in their endeavors. They'll be back hopefully next week. So standing in, we got Dollface, who was able to jump in last minute. And we're going to get things rolling here. First off, we have the Titan of Texas and the founder of Level 1 Gaming, Mr. Fame Entertainment.
What's going on, people? Famous Sam here from level1gaming.com. And yes, thank you, Anchor. Today was the launch day. I'm super excited. But yes, this is the Multiverse Show, the greatest show on a Monday. Yeah, buddy.
And we also have the Deletion, Mr. Mike P. The Truth.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Mike. Thank you for joining us for another wonderful episode of the Multiverse Show. As always, we got a great docket of topics planned for you guys and gals tonight, so let's get it started.
And we also have the White Wolf, Mr. Samuel Tolbert.
Everybody, it's good to be here. We got a lot to go through, and I have this strange inkling that, given the lack of E3 and the stuff replacing it, which we'll talk about tonight, we're going to have a continual amount to talk about every single week. So let's get going.
Yep, and we also have Dollface FX. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you. Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. It's going to be a great show.
Oh, God. All right, so we're getting things rolling, but first off on the docket with a question we ask every single week. What have you guys been playing? Dollface, we'll start with you. What have you been playing?
I caved. I'm playing Red Dead Redemption 2.
I know we were talking about that last week. Man, it's a blast.
And I'll be honest, I'm a hardcore fan of Rockstar, so it's just, I don't know why I never branched out to this game or this series until now, but I'm hooked. I'm probably gonna have to play the first one now. My addiction set in, and it's pretty deep.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite thing about the game so far?
The horses. I'm gonna be honest. I don't even care about killing shit and people. It's just more like, hey, I get to play with. I can touch my horse. I can ride my horse. I can pet my horse. That's all I care about.
All right, Fame, what have you been playing, sir?
Honestly, I really need to double check the NDA that I'm on for this one particular game that I've been playing. So I've been playing a game that I'm actually getting ready to release a review on that I'm working on. But I don't know if I can even say it. But other than that, I've been I started the Complex. Shout out to Rand out there. I saw one of his podcasts. He was playing it. It's one of those Wells interactive games, and I love all of their games. And I every game they release, I'm going to buy and play this because they're really cool, like laid back, drink a beer, make choices type game. So I definitely will recommend that game and The Bunker and pretty much every game for Wells Interactive. Go check it out because it is a really kickback, chill time. And then, of course, I've been playing Streets of Rage 4. Can't stop playing Streets of Rage 4. So other than that, that's about it.
All right. And Mike, what you been playing, sir?
I've been playing Streets of Rage 4. I gotta say, Streets of Rage 4, low-key, that's my favorite game of the year so far. I still gotta finish Doom Eternal. I still gotta play the new Ori, but so far this year, that's my favorite game I played so far this year. That game is great. Visually, the gameplay, awesome. The soundtrack is amazing. Loving that game. Other than that, playing a little bit of Call of Duty, some Dirt Rally 2. That's pretty much it.
All right, and Sam?
I've been really busy, so I haven't been able to play much except for my Modern Warfare and Gears 5 grind. I've been getting my skins in those. I did hop into State of Decay 2 recently to check out the Juggernaut Edition updates and stuff. It's really good. If you have not played State of Decay 2 since 2018 when it launched, go back and check it out right now because they have added a ton to that game. They've even improved the lighting and the graphics overall. They've upped the hordes, instead of 3 or 4 zombies shuffling around in a group, it's now 20 or 30. It's really, really different. Very different, much more difficult experience. It's really good. And then beyond that, because I wasn't in a good place earlier this year in terms of being angry and dealing with some stuff, so I intentionally didn't start Ori and the Will of the Wisp for a while because I knew I wouldn't enjoy it. But I did start that game finally yesterday. Played about an hour of it, and I'm in absolute love. It's immersion for the soul. It's one of the most pure things I've ever experienced, and I can't wait to dive in more.
Nice. All right. So, first off, before we get into our topics for the evening, Sam, I believe we have an anti-shill this month.
Yeah, we are being paid to be anti, which in this case feels sort of like being paid to beat a dead horse, but it is what it is. Actually, not even a dead horse. A dead horse has meat. This is more like kicking at the bones of a dead horse that died a long time ago. We are being sponsored this week by the Anti-ESA Association. That's right, the Anti-Entertainment Software Association, who vehemently believe that it is high time the ESA was yeeted off into the far reaches of existence after failing to protect people's personal data last year with the massive leak that happened, and then on top of that, completely failing to pull together a digital showcase that would have been interesting for gamers when literally everyone else seems to be perfectly capable of putting something together. So the anti-ESA is cheering as there is no E3 this year.
Yep. All right, so we got some stuff we got to bring up. I know, actually, this is one thing we were going to do. I know James is not here. Sam, you got to do our film for last week, and I know I went to go rewatch it. We were going to be watching Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
Yep, that's the one I picked.
Yep. So I literally just got done like 5 minutes before I hopped in.
Perfect.
So I've been trying to watch it off and on all day. So it's been. I know I watched Fellowship of the Ring and Two Towers over the course of the weekend, and I got to just finish Return of the King just now. It's interesting watching the whole series again. I will say that much. I remember Return of the King a lot better than the other two. So I didn't really glean that much new from it as much as I did the first two.
Interesting. Okay. Was there anything new you gleaned from it at all? I mean, I know you're coming off of it raw, so to speak. So,
from Return of the King, well, I mean, because I focus a lot more. I will say one thing too. The critique about Lord of the Rings in general. It's like, why didn't they just give Frodo to fly on the eagles all the way to Mordor? Actually, watching it again with that particular thing in mind, you realize how dumb that sounds. It's like, oh, Nazgul. The Eagles were not doing too hot against the Nazgul. I mean, they did okay, but it was not they came in at the last minute for a reason. The surprise factor, that's about it. And if they were to fly straight there, they would have been intercepted. So yeah, I was like, that's the one thing I picked up on there. And I think a little more of the Samwise Gamgee power narrative. Where like towards the end, towards the beginning, Sam at best is like a brawler. But by the end, he's killed like 5 or 6 orcs towards the end of the movie. Like he turns out pretty strong towards the end, but that's specifically what I noted.
Criticism. If there's a single criticism, obviously, for Return of the King, it's just, good God, that movie is long. I mean, we can't get around that. Like, good God, that movie is long. The extended edition is literally like 4 hours, 2 minutes. It's absurd. But aside from that, I mean, it holds up. I don't really personally have much more to say. I'm a little irritable because I really wanted James to be here because I was sure he was going to have something interesting to say about it. But it holds up. The whole trilogy holds up, but Return of the King in particular it's a monument for the ages.
Yeah. It's definitely a very interesting film. I enjoyed watching it. I know, Dollface, you didn't get around to watching the final one, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I didn't get around to it, but I did watch the first.
Any thoughts on the first two?
Going into it, I'm going to be honest, I was not allowed to watch these as a child. I wasn't really allowed to watch, I wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter for probably about 10 years after. So yeah, going into this, I didn't know what to expect. Yeah, I knew who Frodo was and who Sméagol was and then Gandalf, but now it's like a really big complex story, and I mean, I had a bunch of questions, and in the end, like, yes, I was the dumb one that said, why can't we just take the bird or the eagle and just go? But I could totally understand why that probably would have been a bad idea by the time we got to the second movie. Yeah. But I mean, Samwise really came out of his shell. Like, he was very, I really don't want to do this, but I got to, so I'm gonna do this type aspect. He was very shy, or not really shy. It was more of a, okay, I really don't feel comfortable leaving, but if we've got to, I guess we got to. But he was totally like, all right, we got the ring here, let's bounce. So, I mean, I haven't seen the last one, but in terms of Gandalf the White and Gandalf the Gray, I was very confused, because I knew there were two. It was the same person, just two different people, two different levels of power. I'm assuming. I'm still confused on how that worked. But
so I think you can explain that better than I can.
I'm gonna read up on it.
Yeah. Okay. So, what exactly is super difficult to understand about it? Like, do you not understand who they are themselves, or who's more powerful? Like, can you give me a little bit more to work with?
It was like, okay, so Sir Christopher, who I cannot remember who he plays. Yes. He was white, right? Okay.
Right.
And Gandalf was gray. But when Gandalf died, why did he become white? Like, I know that sounds
all right, no.
like...
It's okay, it's all right. So, the nutshell version, the incredibly nutshell version is Saruman and Gandalf are both wizards, right? But they're not human. They are both Maiar spirits, which are basically, in the Lord of the Rings world, think super powerful angels or demons. Either one, depending on whether they're good or bad. But that's what a Maiar spirit is. And the Maiar, when in physical form, have different levels of power. So as Gandalf the Grey, Gandalf was weaker than Saruman. However, when he died fighting the Balrog and killing the Balrog, he went back to the spiritual world, and he was sent back by the Valar, who are basically the gods in the Lord of the Rings universe, in the Middle-earth universe. And the Valar sent him back, and they gave him a power upgrade at the same time. They're like, okay, yeah, you proved yourself. Get back down there. You have more to do, and you're way more powerful now. That's the super, way too streamlined nutshell version.
Because I mean, like, the way I interpreted it was like so Gandalf, falls into the pit, and then that's the end of the movie for his part in the first one. And then I knew somehow, some way he came back, but I didn't quite understand back when he got back to when they found him in the forest. I didn't understand. Okay, if you're the same person, why are you confused on who you are, and why do you not know your name already? Is it because you just got rebirthed or something?
Yeah, basically, because he is Gandalf, but he's not Gandalf. Like, he's Gandalf, but the memories of Gandalf the Grey are like faded memories. Like, they're there, but it's sort of fuzzy. Like, he is renewed. He has a new purpose, and so the other stuff, while it's there in his mind, isn't going to be so fresh. If that makes sense.
Okay, that makes it completely makes sense now.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say, I'll be honest. A long time ago, Nickelodeon had Star Wars, and they had Lord of the Rings at one of the award shows, and they had Schmeagol show up on the screen, and I could understand why I was scared of him as a child. I could totally see that now. But I could tell that the CGI just did not hold up when it comes to a 4K TV.
Yeah.
Me and Anchor talked about. I could see where it's just like, oh, these could really do like a little sprucing up, but don't change the film type thing.
Yeah, no. I mean, they absolutely could. I think the grainier resolution definitely doesn't hold up in that regard. There is a rumor from some credible Blu-ray sites that there's a 4K version of the Hobbit trilogy and the Lord of the Rings trilogy being released later this year. We'll see if that actually happens, or if that was affected by, the pandemic or anything like that. But if so, definitely worth getting, because they'll spruce up a little better.
That'd be cool. All right, so we'll talk about what our pick is for this last week of quarantine, because I know a lot of places are starting to open up now. I know here in North Carolina they've decided to start going into phase 1 of laxing on regulations and stuff. So we'll do one more week, maybe 2 weeks of film stuff. I at least in terms of picks and stuff, until we'll see how it goes. Before we continue, we'll talk about that at the end of the show. So, real quick, we got some cool topics we want to discuss. First things first, topic of the video. So, there's this thing that's circulating earlier today about the Xbox. Let's reframe it this way. We had Assassin's Creed developers coming out and talking about what they plan on the target frame rate for the Xbox Series X. So, real quick, just a little bit of precursor knowledge here. Aaron Greenberg had come out, 2 weeks, maybe a little more than that, 2 weeks ago, and I mentioned that the target frame rate for the Xbox Series X is going to be 60 frames per second. It can go up to 120. For those of you that don't know what frames per second is, it's just basically how many frames are being rendered within a certain second, actually. So, normally when you see a crisper image normally on screen, it's mostly because there's a higher frame rate. It helps in terms of action games. You can see the action moves a little more fluid, a little less janky. It's generally considered to be a better goal than resolution for most for gamers in general. Well, there are a few exceptions to that. So, moving forward, at least into this particular one, we had a developer from Assassin's Creed Valhalla talk about how right now they are looking at 30 frames per second as the target frame rate for the Xbox Series X, which led to a lot of talk. Let's go with that. Real quick, I want to kind of go impressions on this. Fame, what do you think about this, sir?
Personally, I think it's a bad look, with it being one of the highlighted games of beginning of next generation. If there isn't an option to play the game at 60 FPS at 1080p, 1440p, whatever the case may be, then it's a complete and utter L, in my opinion. I think as someone who is ready to spend $500 on a next generation console, I don't expect to play any game 30 frames per second. Yes, I understand that Microsoft, their first party games are going to target 60 and above, and they can't mandate what third party does, same with PlayStation. But I think for any third party developer to see what happened this gen and see that the gamers want 60 FPS and above on console, to go in and say, okay, yeah, we're targeting 4K 30. I think that's a complete and utter L, unless you're giving us options to play at 60 FPS, which I would assume most, if not all gamers, would choose to play the game in 60 FPS at a lower resolution instead of 4K, because one thing we learned in Gen is 4K is the most overrated thing in gaming at the moment.
Mm-hmm. All right. Mike, what do you think, sir?
We're reaching a point where, in my opinion, when we talk about the visuals in games and the quality of the visuals, like the textures, the resolution, that kind of stuff, my opinion is we're starting to reach a point of diminishing returns with each successive console generation. This is something that I'm talking about in an article for the website that's going to be coming for level 1. So with that being said, it's disappointing to me that developers are not putting these resources towards things like improving the frame rate. Like, I think that is the most important thing that a lot of console gamers want. We've already established with the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro, to a lesser extent, that we have the capability of doing 4K resolution. We already know that we could do that with some of these games. So the next thing needs to be delivering 60 frames per second at a minimum on a consistent basis, really all the time. And for me, it's disappointing that, they're targeting 30 with this game. It's like, it's kind of like more of the same in a sense, and it's a little disappointing, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm. Sam, what are your thoughts, dude?
I've got a couple of different thoughts that I'd like to share. One is on what Aaron Greenberg said first, and then the Assassin's Creed thing. If that's okay, because this will take a little moment.
Sure.
Aaron Greenberg, I think his tweet, because it was a tweet, it was limited to 240 characters, and this is Aaron Greenberg, was a little overly reductive, but at the end of the day, people are reading into his words a little too literally. Yes, 60 FPS will be the standard, as in the majority. More games than not are going to choose to run at 60 FPS, or will be run. The developers and publishers do the choosing, technically. However, Jason Ronald, one of the chief architects of the Xbox Series X, had a great interview with Eurogamer a few days ago. And he was asked directly by Eurogamer, hey, are you guys mandating that all games at least run at 60 FPS? He said, no, we're not. We're not going to tell them what to do. However, we're making it clear to them, hey, you this previous generation on these, he didn't. They held everything. Now you have the choice. You have the capacity to make a 60 FPS game or even a 120 FPS game if you choose without feeling like your game is limited. That said, if you're doing some intensive stuff like ray tracing, for example, because ray tracing is very GPU, maybe your game won't be 60 FPS. So that's with Greenberg. I really don't think Greenberg is at fault here. His tweet was a little reductive, but he is telling the truth. That's part one. All right, part two. I'm a little annoyed with this Ubisoft thing because, A, it comes from Ubisoft Portugal, and we know how some of the local brand, management can sometimes be in a lot of these accounts. Like, you don't generally trust it unless it comes from the main one. That tends to be a very good line of thinking, so to speak. But also, they didn't say it was only going to be 30 FPS. The exact words in their response to Eurogamer Portugal was they said, quote, right now we can confirm it is 30 FPS, or it is at least 30 FPS on the Xbox Series X. We look forward to sharing more about this game later. Naturally, it will have decreased loading times due to the SSD, blah, 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 blah. Alright, so they didn't say it was only going to be 30 FPS. They just said we don't have anything else to share right now. Because, it's going to run at a minimum of 30 FPS. Obviously, any game aspires to at least do that. I mean, games that don't do that are few and far between from big publishers, and it's not good if it's not running at least 30 FPS. So I'm a little annoyed because I think people saw an opportunity for clickbait and ran with it when all they were saying is, we don't have anything else to confirm at this time. I understand everyone wants to get angry at anything, and sometimes Ubisoft or even Xbox can be easy targets, but this isn't the time to do it. Now, if later on, right before the game's launch or whatever, they still haven't confirmed a performance mode, or they say, yeah, it's only going to be 30 FPS, then yeah, okay, in that case, go ham. Go nuts on them. But right now, this feels really like jumping the gun. That's just me, though. I really think people are leaping to conclusions here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, Dollface, I know you're in an interesting position. I know you have not made the 4K jump just yet. So for first part of the question I want to ask is, for you, which would you prefer? Would you prefer something be 4K or a higher frame rate, at least at this point in time?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Now, hearing the information from Sam here, it changed my whole perspective. Like, I could understand why, I'm not an Assassin's Creed type person. I really had a hard time with game 1 and 2 in the beginning. So, I mean, I can understand, people are really excited about this game. And, I mean, if you're going to, fork out that much money, you at least want to see the results of that hard-earned money being used to see, I guess, a good frame rate. Since I've played on a 4K TV, I've played some of my games that are better in 4K. I definitely would choose the definition because I'm the type of person that I want to see all the details and every single second of it. But at the same time, I really don't care about frame rate. Like, I want to see how realistic we can get with faces versus, you know, regular stuff. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If you poll
So, I mean,
a lot of people Dollface, I think a lot of people, and not calling you a casual gamer, but I think a lot of casual gamers, which is the majority of gamers, would agree with you, Dollface. They want to see the pretty texture and the prettiness of gaming. Phil Spencer said it last year that, and he got crap for it. A lot of people don't care about frame rates, and I don't think they do. I think that's more of the hardcore care about frame rates. I'm sorry to cut you off. Keep going. Sorry.
it's fine. No, I mean, I literally, like 2 years ago, I bought the same style of games, cube, same color, all the games that I loved, and then I was like, oh my god, I can't go back to this. I'll play it on occasions, but my eyes hurt. Like, I can't keep doing this, just because it's all boxy and terrible. And then the fact that you're playing on like a really nice TV versus that little TV that you had with those 3 little cords you had to plug in instead of an HDMI cable. So it's just like, But you know, I think like the one game I'm really excited about, and I just found out a few weeks ago because I just blew my mind, that SpongeBob Battle of Bikini Bottom is getting, you know, a remake or an update. And since I played the older game, I really want to see how how technology now will affect this game. So I mean, I want to see how far we can go with what we have, but at the same time, I want the game to run smoothly, and I don't want it to look gritty.
Mm-hmm. All right.
But that's how I feel about it. I can totally see where if I'm gonna pay all this money, that I could see the frame rate, I could care about it just a bit, but I haven't made that jump to a new TV yet because I'm not willing. I don't want to buy a TV right now. I mean, I want to wait till like I've already pre-ordered my Xbox and then I'll buy the TV because I mean like I don't need it. I want to be all wowed in one moment. If that makes
fair. Okay. So we're going to move on to the next little topic here, just because for time. We actually this is actually probably the biggest news to me personally. So actually over the weekend I was playing Titanfall 2, and I was like, man, I really want another Titanfall game. I would love a new Titanfall game right now. And actually, oddly enough, we had some somewhat Titanfall-related news that came out. So today, we had some of the team leads over at Respawn Entertainment, known for making Modern Warfare 2 and Titanfall and Apex Legends in particular, have announced they are splitting off and making their own company called Gravity Well. Sam, I think you have a little more details, like what the studio sizes and such.
Yeah, so specifically, it's the former executive producer Drew McCoy and the former lead programmer John Shiring. John Shiring was senior programmer on Titanfall 2. He was the lead programmer on Apex Legends. Drew McCoy was a producer on Titanfall 2, the executive producer on Apex Legends. So needless to say, 2 people very high up on the shooting side of Respawn. You know, they weren't really in the Fallen Order team, because that was a separate team that they sort of hired more for. But you still had a few of the old standbys. This was the hardcore. This was the old Modern Warfare days. These guys go way back. And they actually explained, and I'm going to paraphrase quite a bit here, that they're just now starting out, so it's basically just the 2 of them, and that they want a vehemently anti-crunch studio with remote work. They don't want people to crunch. They want good working conditions. They want to put the team first above everything else, and they want people, even when this pandemic isn't going on, to be able to work remotely. They also said they want to keep it a little more focused. They want to keep it to about 80, maybe 85 people at max, but they still want to develop AAA games. And they just want to keep the size a little bit more manageable than some of these other studios that you see, which is interesting because they both worked at Respawn, and Respawn has over 300 developers, about 315, 320. It's a pretty big studio, working on multiple projects at once for EA, and kind of EA's shining star at this particular point. So it's interesting to see them take that, and then naturally, given the fact that they're just setting out and they're just hiring, they confirm that the games they make will be exclusively for high-end PCs and next-gen hardware. So don't expect to see their games on your current stuff.
Yeah. But hey, I know I'm personally excited for it because these are the guys that are more shooter-focused. I'd love to see what they got to do.
Absolutely. This is, yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say. I mean, it's going to be a while. I'll say that. It's definitely, don't expect to see anything from them next year. Certainly not the rest of this year, but give it time. Late 2022, maybe late 2023 at max. This is going to be a studio to watch, for sure. That's some great leadership.
Gotcha.
I definitely feel the exact same way. I think Sam kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I think this studio is the kind of studio I think everyone needs to kind of pay attention to, because this is the type of studios that are going to be getting built and utilized going forward. The small AAA studio, 80 to 85 people, definitely less than 100 people, but can still push out that AAA style quality. When you look at a studio like a Ninja Theory, they're less than 100 people, pushed out a game like Hellblade, which was considered a indie AAA type game. People kind of quoted indie AAA type game. You give you a AAA experience from a indie smaller size studio. And I think with the way that the gaming budgets are now and how expensive games are getting, you could really start to see more of these small AAA type studios really pushing out games. And I think that might, in the long run, help out with the gamers, because we're going to get, I think, in my opinion, if the studios lay back a more a quality type game, maybe not as big or as long as you would an Uncharted 4 or something like that, but still high quality, and you're gonna get a game from a happy studio. So I definitely think this is the type and style of studios that we're going to see created and put together moving forward. I think I could be wrong, but I think the days of the 300 developer studios are coming to an end, because at the end of the day, I don't think you really need those that amount for some of these games that are being made, unless it's the Cyberpunks of the world. You don't really need a 400 dev team when you got dev teams of 50 pumping out great games. And I think the people with the money in their pockets are going to begin to see that.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I
go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I really hope this studio is successful, because like Fame was saying, I hope that this shows the industry that you could have a studio with a smaller team. They're focused, they're not spread so thin, and they're still able to churn out great games, AAA quality games, but at the same time still have the developers that work for the studio maintain their quality of life, which we know with recent titles, that has not been the case with a lot of these AAA games. And I mean, from my perspective as a gamer, I love Titanfall and Titanfall 2. Those were some of the best shooters that came out this generation. So, I mean, if that's going to be their focus, I'm definitely interested in seeing what they have to put out for sure.
And you know what's interesting, you guys, that I just now realized, this literally just clicked into my head a few seconds ago, is the fact that this is now 2 studios founded by former members of studios that were acquired by EA. Because remember, late last year, or early this year, it was one of the two, you had Archetype Entertainment, opened by Wizards of the Coast, which is an RPG studio that is founded by BioWare veterans. James Olin, who was one of their lead designers at BioWare, and Drew Karpyshyn. His name speaks for himself. He was the lead writer on Knights of the Old Republic and the first 2 Mass Effect games. And now you've got 2 Respawn veterans starting their own studio. So I think it's interesting that 2 of the biggest name studios that EA picked up, now people have splintered away and are starting the process all over again. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm. All right, and we have our other little piece here. We kind of joked about a little bit about E3 earlier today. Sam, not only has several places confirmed they're going to be having their own digital showcasing, but we had some new ones pop through today. Please fill us in, sir.
Yeah, so if you somehow thought that going on, you were called the Guerrilla Collect, and it's a collective, as you might imagine, of different studios, including, but not even remotely limited to, 11-Bit, who are the developers of this War of Mine, and Frostpunk, Coffee Stain, a studio picked up by THQ Nordic, Larian Studios, the developers of Divinity Original Sin, and now Baldur's Gate 3, Paradox Interactive, big publisher, big developer, a bunch of different studios like that have all gotten together. And from June 6th through June 8th, they're going to have a multi-day press conference, showing their news, showing their new games, showing all their stuff out. This conference is going to be hosted, it's all digital, of course. It's being hosted by Greg Miller from Kind of Funny, and it's being produced by Kind of Funny, and it has multiple funders, including ID at Xbox and Razer, are the ones footing the bill for the showcase. So yeah, it definitely seems like this one's going to be a little smaller in focus, like more indies, more double A's, but them getting their own couple of days to show things that's a plus in my book.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I mean, hey, this is one of those things where it's very interesting to see, because if this stuff takes off, like we've always said, if this all takes off, E3's dead. Like, there's no reason for E3 anymore. I'm honestly more excited for the project that Jeff Keighley's put together, doing the whole Summer Games thing.
Yeah, the Summer Game Fest. Yeah,
Summer Game
he's done a
Fest,
great job with that.
Like, that is going to be very interesting to spread this out over a long period of time as opposed to one whole time. Actually, that might even work better for most people, because for those who have been to E3, there's always games that get completely overshadowed by E3.
Of course.
And
always.
Unfortunately, there are great games that get overshadowed. It's like something will capture everyone's imagination and we'll get copies of it or something like that for a long time. This is really quite a amazing time frame to be in, because, like, especially for this show, if you guys follow the show, every year we take off right after E3. Because after E3, it's just Fallout news, just little bits and pieces that are left over. But we normally take a break for July and August. We come back in September. But we don't really need to do that now.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I know I said this elsewhere. I'm not sure if I said this here last week, but I definitely said it elsewhere on Gaming Perspective. The fact of the matter is, look, I've said this at length, it sucks that E3 isn't happening to some extent. I'm going to miss not being able to go out there and talk to friends and talk to developers and see stuff behind the scenes. Yes, that is going to suck. But I think, at the end of the day, this is going to provide a great opportunity, like you said, Ivan, because instead of, a fire hose of news over the course of 1 week and, it's all big AAA and all the small stuff gets crushed and maybe you hear about one or two of them later, just news. Instead of that, it's like a garden hose, if you'll pardon the analogy, of news over a 4-month period. Instead of just getting blasted and bowled over for 1 week in June, we're getting a nice spread of news constantly, basically every day, at minimum every week, from May to September. That's really cool, in my opinion. I think that provides a lot of opportunity for publishers to shine, both big and small.
Also, I agree, Sam.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, Sam, I agree, and I think the other thing is the timing of this, of these digital events, is good too, because we're on the precipice of a new console generation. So people's excitement level in the gaming community is already high because we have these new consoles coming out, and getting news and getting trailers and things like that, a steady stream of news related to gaming during the time that we would typically have our quote-unquote summer drought leading up to these new consoles is only going to heighten people's anticipation of what's to come in the fall and going forward from there.
Yeah, and also too, it's going to make it more of like a poker game, especially if you're one of the larger publishers. You got to make some tough decisions. Like, okay, do we show everything we have this whole week, and then where we dominate the news cycle for a week, or do we drop this now? But if we drop this now, EA could drop this whole thing, or no, maybe Activision might drop this then. Like, it becomes this whole poker game for the entire summer. It's all about positioning. I mean, you've been seeing it a little bit with Microsoft and Sony in terms of we're gonna drop this piece of news, but we're gonna drop this other piece of news to counteract that, like little stuff like that. But it's gonna be
those two are playing next gen
industry-wide.
footsie. It's getting a little old.
Yep. So, it's going to be a very interesting time. I will say that much. At least, like this year, we might just not even take a break. At least until maybe after the Game Fest time. So, we'll see. Anything else you want to talk about before we head out?
There's not one thing. This is a minor thing for Assassin's Creed, but it's a really cool thing. Jesper Kyd, the composer for Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood and Revelations, is coming back, and he's going to be composing for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. He's joined by I'm going to butcher this name, Sarah Schachner, who composed the soundtrack for Assassin's Creed Origins, and Einar Selvik, who composed for the TV show Vikings. And it's the trio of them working together. So I think that's pretty cool.
And for me, not really anything to talk about in particular. I just want to give a shout out to Bright Memory Infinite, man. That game looks dope. Oh my god, that game looks so great. It looks like a mix between Titanfall and Red Steel 2. I don't know if how many of you guys remember Red Steel 2 on the Wii, where it had like the sword play in it, but man, that game looks great. I hope to God it has a PvP mode, because man, it looks awesome. From the third-party stuff, that is my most anticipated third-party game so far for next gen. It looks awesome. I can't wait for that.
I would agree with you if I didn't see Second Extinction. That Joker looks super dope. I get the sort of I get the sense it's gonna be sort of like a drop-in Left 4 Dead type game, and man, I think. I don't think we're getting another Turok game anytime soon. It might be the closest we get to a Dino game. So I'm definitely looking forward to Second Extinction. That joint looks like it's going to be a ball.
It's funny. I thought it was a Turok reboot at first.
A lot of people got that vibe when they first started. It's like, oh snap, Turok is back. But this is definitely gonna. I think it might scratch the itch just a little bit.
All right. Also, for our pick for the movie this week, I'm going to jump on in here. So for this week, I'm picking The Mask of Zorro. Nah. We're doing The Mask of Zorro. 1998, The Mask of Zorro with Antonio Banderas, Anthony Hopkins, and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Where can we watch it?
Netflix. It's on Netflix.
Jeez, are you serious? Can I suggest like a sidebar if you have time?
Maybe.
You know what I'm going to suggest, and it's on Netflix.
I know what you're going to suggest. No. All right,
If you have time, what can you? I would like to hear somebody else's opinion. If you're into like sci-fi, I know this movie didn't do well in like the box office, but at least give it a chance. I understand that Channing Tatum isn't for everybody, but I mean, Jupiter Ascending's good. If you can get through the yucky space stuff and kind of hold on. Oh, whatever. It's so cool. I mean, it's sad because and this is the last thing, and I'm totally done. A lot of sci-fi movies that are branching out into like aliens and what aliens could look like don't do very well. Like Valorian didn't do well, but did well in China. Mm-hmm. Jupiter Ascending did bad. Sad face. Like, come on, give it a chance.
Write an article about it.
Oh my god, okay, fine.
Why Jupiter Ascending is not trash.
No, I'm good. I'm gonna have
do that. Oh my god. Because yes, it is.
All right, we're gonna wrap things up here before a murder takes place.
I don't have any tigers. I can't do that. I'm sorry.
Don't kill me.
I wouldn't.
All right, Sam, where can we find you, sir?
You can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert. That's TOLBERT. And you can also find what I write on Windows Central, Android Central, and iMore.
All right, Mike.
All right, guys. You can find me on Twitter at The Truth of Mike P. And also on Level 1 Gaming at lv1gaming.com. Got a couple pieces scheduled, so make sure to come by and check us out.
All right, Fame.
I am at Fame ENT across the board. And definitely check out LV1 Gaming on Twitter. Check out LV1 Gaming on Instagram, and check out lv1gaming.com. That's Level 1 Gaming, LV1 Gaming, where gaming begins. We are a new site. I have one hell of a team running things at level1gaming.com, and we got some great things around the pike. I'm so happy to have you, Anchor there, Dollface, Mike. I got my family surrounding me, man. We're going to do great things at lv1gaming.com. Yeah, buddy.
All right, Dollface.
Yeah, okay, so you can find me on Mixer, at Dollface Effects, also on my Instagram. I mean, if you want to, I don't have any friends. You could be my friend if you want to. I'm just kidding. No, on Twitter, I'm gonna be writing pieces on why sci-fi movies don't suck and why Channing Tatum ruined the movie. I will do that because Channing Tatum ruined that movie. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great Monday and the rest of your week.
Oh, also too, before I sign off here, if you're like, oh, I don't want to watch the basketball, or it's gonna suck, but it's in Ultra HD 4K.
You swayed me. I'll definitely do it now.
Yeah, no, because the thing was, I watched it like maybe 2 years ago, because like, it came to Netflix at that point, but that was before they started doing the whole Ultra HD 4K. Now I'm like, maybe. let me take a look. So, anyway, Maker Me Too. You can find me on Xbox, PlayStation, Switch again sometime, and other places. So, thank you guys for tuning in, and we are out of here.